Hey everybody, my name is Paul Eston Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com, and welcome to the Jet Zone, a weekly New York Jets podcast, which you guys can find, of course, the audio wherever you listen to your podcast, and of course, live streaming right now in three different places: the Jet Zone on Twitter, the Jet Zone on Facebook, and my YouTube channel, youtube.com/, Boy Green 25. So first off, I'm not used to this much great Jet news. I'm going to be honest. I am used to being disappointed, being led astray, being lied to. But in this particular case, we've got bubbly to pop. We've got exciting news to share. And it's been public for a little bit. It just became official a few minutes ago. Folks, it's happening. Joe Klecko is going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame after all these years. His last year in the NFL was back in 1988. And after 34 gosh darn years, quite frankly, should have made it in as a modern era candidate. That didn't happen. And now he had to go through extracurricular activities to become a Hall of Famer. Now, I'm going to explain what all of this means because for a lot of people, they're not going to understand what the senior committee means. They're not going to understand whether Joe Klecko is actually a Hall of Famer right now or why he is not. I'm going to explain all of that to you guys in vivid detail. But first, I do want to read the first words from Joe Klecko and this from Joe Klecko himself. These are the first words by Joe Klecko since the news became official, and the Hall of Fame gave him that infamous call, but not infamous in a bad way. This is actually for the good news, the good call of receiving the phone call of it finally being a yes. Let's go to that quote again. This from Joe Klecko, his very first words on after being realized as a Hall of Famer. And again, I will explain what that means here momentarily. Here is Joe Klecko's first words. He said, quote, "You made my day, that's for sure." Joe Klecko, who is now 68 years old and is eligible for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, he said in a congratulatory phone call with the Hall of Fame, quote, "I've had too many of them, quote unquote, no phone calls. And to get this one with a, quote, yes, is just absolutely exciting. It's a great time in the Klecko household." And an absolute round of applause for Joe Klecko. Earlier this week, we get the great news about Zach Wilson. The surgery was a riveting success, and there's no additional damage. And now, just a day later, we get more great news with Joe Klecko headed to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Also, throughout today's show, everybody feel free to jump in on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and get involved in the comment section. This is an interactive program, after all, for Pete's sake. But let me explain basically what all of this means, because I can understand how it could be a little bit confusing. So it's been a long time coming, but Joe Klecko will be a nomination to the Hall of Fame. Let me explain. The news was first leaked by Mike Kliss of 9 News. He covers the Denver Broncos out there in Colorado. And Joe Klecko is one of 3 nominations by the Hall of Fame Senior Committee. He will also join Chuck Howley and Ken Riley as the other 2 finalists per Kliss, and now officially per the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, what does that mean? Let me explain. Earlier this week, specifically yesterday, the Hall of Fame Senior Committee met for a virtual Zoom call, and they debated 12 names. There was a 12-man pool among it that had been getting sliced over the last couple of months. And their goal in this virtual meeting was to bring that group from 12 all the way to 3. And the 3 that ended up getting selected, Joe Klecko being among them, are now nominations for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, in a couple of months, in January, what's going to happen is the Hall of Fame committee is going to be discussing all the normal names that could be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Darrelle Revis, maybe, among others, that could be getting in on their own. Now, what Klecko and the other 2 need is 80% of the entire 49-member committee in January. Now, you may say, shucks, Paul, what the hell? He's on the Hall of Fame. He still has this other step. And it is true. He has this other step. But it has been described to me, this step that we're talking about in January, as a, quote, formality for these guys, because for these guys to go through the cutting process that they just went through to be considered and to now be eligible for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, This part of the leg is, of course, if they just made it through all those phases, they're, of course, going to be made Pro Football Hall of Famers. Again, it was considered, quote, a formality. They wouldn't go through this entire process, basically, now I'm talking in layman's terms. They wouldn't go through that entire process, and then they get to that point January, and then they go, no, we're good. So it looks like that it is a lock that Joe Klecko will now be becoming a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which, again, let me add, is so long overdue. It is incredibly long overdue. Klecko, for some of our younger viewers and listeners and everything else, and including myself, again, I am just 29 years of age. I turned 30 in April, so I did not get to see any portion of Joe Klecko's career. He was retired 5 years before I was even born. In other words, he should have been in the Hall of Fame when I was coming out of the womb. But that's neither here nor there. Again, players are eligible 5 years after their playing career. That's how the Hall of Fame works, unless you're Joe Klecko and you just get snubbed for 30 years. But I digress. Joe Klecko entered the NFL back in 1977 as a 144th overall pick in the 6th round at a Temple. He would spend 12 years in the league, and 11 of those 12 years were with the Jets. And thanks to a couple of rule changes and changes in general, this is how Klecko got into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And let me explain. Number one, the NFL sack statistic was not officially a statistic. That's a tongue twister till 1982, which means initially some of Joe Klecko's best years, like 1981, where he led the league in sacks and he was a defensive player of the year with 20 and a half sacks, those numbers weren't initially considered. So if you went to Pro Football Reference, if you went to NFL.com and you Googled or Binged, let me do a quick Bing search on Joe Klecko's stats, you would have saw him have 24 career sacks. And you're like, big whoop, what's the big deal? However, the NFL recently made a change recognizing some of these sacks from years in which they didn't even count the statistic initially, which means that a magic wand was waved over Joe Klecko's career, and now Joe Klecko has 78 career sacks. He played in over 155 games. He led the league in sacks in 1981. He was the Defensive Player of the Year in 1981. And now Joe Klecko will be going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, again, he should have made it in as a modern era candidate, and that never happened. And then he's been in this senior committee. But another rule change that just happened over the last, this is the first year of its existence. The NFL realized, like, we have an amazing backlog of really talented and capable candidates that should have been in a long time ago, but we're going to fix that. And this year and the next 2 years, the NFL is going to consider more candidates, essentially, up to 3 extra, quote unquote, per year, starting this year with Joe Klecko and Crowley and Riley, the rest of his group. And then the next 2 years will also have up to 3 candidates each to be considered for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And some of these guys have been eligible for 30, 40 years. Klecko, in particular, has been eligible for 34 years. Well, it's not quite that much because of, again, you had to wait a few years. But still, the point is that he and others have had to wait 30 plus years to be eligible for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And this is the golden opportunity to get these guys in. So Joe Klecko and his family, who are celebrating right now, can thank the recent rule change with the senior committee of getting these guys in over the hump. Again, this is amazing news. This is great news. Technically, quote unquote, he's not officially in, but again, it has been described to me as a formality, and that in January we will know then that Joe Klecko is in. But I think all of us can celebrate now, knowing that Joe Klecko is going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, I've heard a couple of people, even when the news initially leaked around 11 o'clock, 11:30. The news was not officially announced till 1 o'clock, that some Jet fans are like, Paul, I don't give a, you could be a credible guy and you could share whatever information that you have. I don't give a flying hoot. I'm not going to believe it till I see it. And I said, hey, different prerogatives for everybody. And then people are saying now that even that it's official now, they want to believe it when they see it in January. So they will not even celebrate this moment of the Hall of Fame until it actually happens. And that's fine. Different strokes, different folks. But I'll tell you this, that Joe Klecko is going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Let's bring in a couple of comments here from everybody. We got VR Heldago, well-deserved, awesome news. Maximilian, another Jet in the Hall. Let's see. Also, I think Maximilian brings up an astute observation. I got to give credit to Rich Cimini of ESPN, who initially even put this on the docket of possibilities. So Joe Klecko is going to be in. That's great news. Now, the other people they'll be considering in January are the normal candidates. And speaking of that, Darrelle Revis is a first ballot Hall of Fame considerate. He is possible. If he goes in this year, he will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And by the way, Revis Island is about to freaking get in. I believe he's going first ballot. And if that happens, if Joe Klecko is in after all this time, if Darrelle Revis is in as a first ballot guy, there is a great chance that the New York Jets could be represented in the Pro Football Hall of Fame game. Now, the Jets have not been there since, if I have my math right, 1992. And how, according to the Hall of Fame, I was reading through their rules a couple weeks ago, there is no standard like, hey, we pick our teams based on this. But basically, from what I gathered from the rules, the Hall of Fame, as they pick the two teams that are represented in the Hall of Fame game, which, by the way, is the first preseason game of the year that kind of kicks everything off. What they try to do is pick teams that have relations with whoever the class is. In theory, with Joe Klecko going in, Darrelle Revis potentially going in, it would be a perfect time with Jet fans who are already going to be there for the Hall of Fame festivities to then throw in the Hall of Fame game of the Jets actually being there so they can milk these people for their money. And let me just tell you, I will be one of them. I have never been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but this seems like the perfect gosh darn year to go, which will be next August in Canton, Ohio. And again, fingers crossed that Revis's first ballot, he should be Revis Island. Joe Klecko would be going in, and then the Jets playing the game, and I'd love to stay for that too. So again, there is a great chance that the Jets could be going to the Hall of Fame game, and it will be just a Jets weekend. What a way to kick off the 2023 year, if that is to come to fruition. Again, the Hall of Fame committee will be discussing some of these things of that nature. Jeremy Crowder, home of the Jets, baby, you bet. JETS, mess. Yo, you bet it is. Let's go. Michael Palomero. Klecko is an absolute beast. Well overdue. No question about it. He deserved to be in a long time ago. VR Heldago. I hope the Jets brass does something special once it's officially official. Yes, at 1:00, shortly after the Hall of Fame made that announcement, the Jets on their social media portals and the Jets app did make a little announcement, but hopefully they do something more than special for Joe Klecko. Keep it simple, RC, about effing time. You're damn right. That 80s geek, he's the reason I'm a Jets fan. Well, I love that, man. I love that. I love hearing those stories. And by the way, I will be sharing a couple of clips that I cut up because a couple of years ago, the Jets were trying to kind of make a rally around the initial senior committee to get Joe Klecko into the Hall of Fame. And you can watch the full YouTube video. It's on Jets YouTube. But if you just Google YouTube search it, you'll find it. It's like Joe Klecko deserves the call from the Hall, something of that nature. It's 10-minute video, and they kind of gathered a lot of legends. Peter King, Howie Long, players that Joe Klecko played against, and just kind of so people could kind of get a feel, because for that 80s geek, that's the reason he's a Jets fan. I'm sure there's a lot of Jet fans that are millennial age have no idea who Joe Klecko is. And they may be celebrating because it's news to celebrate, but they don't know who Joe Klecko is, unfortunately. So look at that video, and you guys will kind of get a feel for who Joe Klecko was. So with that being said, let's play a couple of clips so you guys can kind of get a taste of who Joe Klecko is and who he was and kind of what he brought to the table. There's a couple. I want to play two videos here. This will be the first one. It's the start of that YouTube video that I talked about. It's 1:19 in length, but I really like this one, and you guys can kind of get a taste about Joe Klecko. Let me take that 80s geek off the screen real quick so you guys can see this. And this was really cool to share some of these videos this morning. Here is people talking about the one and only Joe Klecko.
Intensity, bottom line. Never take a play off.
He was incredibly strong.
2-time first-team All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowl player, a dominant player at 3 different positions.
He was the same every play. Balls out.
Just knock the crap out of the guy across from you.
it was an incredible accomplishment to be dominant at one position in the NFL in your career, but to be dominant at 3 positions.
He could disengage from a blocker better than just about anybody I've ever seen.
His just pure raw strength, his quickness off the ball, his understanding of leverage, and just sheer power. It was not about finesse. It was not about being slick. For Joe, it was simple. You know what I'm going to do. I know what you're going to do, and stop me if you can.
You know, we really need, as a Hall of Fame voting group, we need to re-examine some careers. And I think we need to re-examine the career of Joe Klecko.
Joe Klecko, by the way, was a Pro Bowler at 3 different positions: defensive end, defensive tackle, and nose tackle, making that kind of history. Again, this video is originally from 5 or 6 years ago. And let's play one more clip, and this is the main quote you're going to hear is from Howie Long, the Las Vegas Oakland Raiders legend, on why Joe Klecko is so damn impressive. Let's play one more clip here.
In 1981, the New York Sack Exchange was born. Combining with Mark Gastineau, Marty Lyons, and Abdul Salam, Klecko and the Jets dismantled opposing quarterbacks with 66 sacks. Klecko led the NFL with 20 and a half, a franchise record.
20 and a half sacks in 1981. They're probably throwing the ball. I'm not sure what the percentage is, but they're throwing the ball a lot more now. We're throwing the ball at every level of football more. So that number is even more impressive in 1981 than it would be now. He had 20 and a half sacks before the sacks were considered an official statistic. So you look at Joe's pages on, NFL.com or Pro Football Reference, it shows 24 career sacks. But that discounts his sacks from his first, 4 or 5 years in the league, including his most dominant season when he had 20 and a half.
His ability to play both outside and then to slide down and play inside, depending on what the play called for. I think that was huge. And clearly, without any question, he was the most versatile of those 4 guys.
There you go. Joe Klecko, baby, the best of the 4 of the New York Sack Exchange. And by the way, everybody, I don't often do this, but I want you to look over my right shoulder here, right here. You see that Jets helmet, that old school Jets helmet, which, by the way, I wanted to make sure I wore the old school Jets hat. That is autographed by all 4 members of the New York Sack Exchange right there, baby. One of my most prized possessions. I won it in a $20 auction. So 12 people joined this auction, $20 a piece, complete random. One name gets drawn out of the hat of the random 12. Again, there's 12 spots available, $20 per spot. And then they're going to draw the name and boom, hey, this individual wins the helmet. And guess what? This lucky bastard got that autographed New York Sack Exchange helmet with, Mark Gastineau, Joe Klecko, Marty Lyons, and, of course, Abdul Salam. And that sits on my desk, baby. So one of my favorite memorabilia items I have, and one of the proudest for sure. So I hope all those videos gave you guys a little bit of a taste of who Joe Klecko was as not only a individual, intensity, and also as a Hall of Famer, which sounds awesome to say. Again, long overdue. Let's keep looking through all the comments here. Maximilian Hall of Fame for a game for the Jets next year? Oh, we got to hope so. Again, there's no official formula to it per se, but again, the educated guess is, again, they correlate it to the Hall of Famers of that class. I think Revis would have to be a Hall of Famer first ballot for that to happen, which I think is very much within the realm of possibilities. VR Helldog, Revis was the best of his era at corner. You may even argue maybe the best corner of all time. And it is him and Deion Primetime Sanders for the best shutdown corners. You pick your one. Beat that 2009 season, I dare you, of shutting down Hall of Famers like Randy Moss, T.O., and so many really good guys like Megatron, another Hall of Famer, Ocho Cinco. There were so many really, really good players. Dave Etchenberry, congrats, Joe. Well deserved. I was talking to Dave Dolby, former Raiders great center at a boat show many years ago. He told me that Klecko was the toughest guy by far that he ever played against. And Dave, I want to say this. To me, the real telltale of a Hall of Famer is what his peers say about him. When you hear Anthony Munoz, Howie Long, either guys that he went up and blocked against, like Munoz, or just guys in his era that say, oh, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. Like, if you're going to take anyone's word, probably his peers are the best guys to take it. And Howie Long, by the way, in his speech over 20 years ago, which is crazy to think about, when Howie was inducted into the Hall of Fame in the early 2000s, he went out of his way to give a shout out to Joe Klecko, saying he was one of the best players ever played with and helped him reach another level. And again, now 20 years later, Joe Klecko will now get his time in the Hall of Fame. Keep it simple, RC. Not a big fan of preseason games. Always worry we'll lose a guy for the season in a meaningless game. To me, again, I've mentioned this before, but for me, I love the preseason. Again, it's not the same as the regular season and the energy and all of that. But for me, I just watch Hard Knocks this morning with the Detroit Lions. I watch it no matter who the team is. Again, I'm a football fan by heart on top of my Jets fandom. And I got to tell you that it's Hard Knocksian for me, watching, the guys fighting in the fourth quarter. Who's going to be the Jets running back? Is it Bam Knight? Is it Tevin Coleman? Is it LaMichael Pirant? Like, these guys are fighting for that last job or two here or there on the roster. That, to me, is always compelling. But, yeah, obviously injuries are a part of the game. And the Zach Wilson thing on the second drive of the preseason, anything can happen. So, John Hepburn, hey, fellers, what's poppin', baby? Yes, sir. Exciting times here on One Jets Drive, that's for sure. VR Heldago, Klecko played defensive end, defensive tackle, nose tackle over his career, made Pro Bowl in both, if I'm not mistaken. All three, as a matter of fact, VR. He is the first to ever do that. So, again, as the Jets change schematics, and when you change coaches, that can happen, whether 3-4, 4-3. So sometimes guys can kind of switch, and sometimes when they switch, a guy will get traded or something. But in this particular case, Joe Klecko just adapted. He was asked to do different things, from a defensive tackle to a defensive tackle to a nose tackle. And having 7+ sacks as a nose tackle when your pure job responsibility is just to hold up lanes, hold up offensive linemen, and to also be this dynamic pass rusher in the same sense is absolutely bonkers. So he's a freak. Keep it simple, RC. Anyone who made a cameo in the Smokey and the Bandit series deserves a Hall of Fame. That's a good point. Again, a remarkable acting career also for Mr. Joe Klecko. John Hepburn, is Revis and Klecko going in together? Maybe the Jets play the Hall of Fame game. 100%. If they go in together, I think it's the Hall of Fame game. Maybe, the Jets would still get it even if it was just Klecko, but I think Klecko, and again, I think Revis is a first ballot Hall of Famer. And we've had a couple of guests on over the offseason. Mike Tannenbaum joined us. He said he's first ballot. Damian Woody joined us. He said he was first ballot. So you guys can look up those clips on my Twitter account. So there you go. Dave Etcheberry, Klecko was a rhino. You're damn right he was. He was a rhino. He was a rhinoceros. We heard those clips earlier. Intense, physical. He was just a physical son of a gun. And, in an era where today everyone wants the limelight, right? Every player's like, look at me. Klecko was this selfless guy that didn't embrace the spotlight. And I think another thing that hurt Joe Klecko over the bunch of years that he was a modern era candidate, 25+ years, I think the thing that hurt him was the Jets were terrible for the most part. Outside of the AFC Championship game and what was that, 84, whatever that year was with the Mud Bowl and the Miami Dolphins, everything. And then, you think about some of those opportunities. If you, outside of that, the Jets were bad during his career. And when you were bad, you didn't get the notoriety and the love that they should have gotten. You had Ken O'Brien, who was, kicking ass and doing things. But again, overall, not being good. If he was good in New York, maybe they would have gotten all the pub. But he didn't even get the notoriety at his time in space on the continuum, on the, when the pendulum's swinging in the 80s. He was not getting the love that he deserved. So that's my take, but it's long overdue. And Keep It Simple RC has a very important message. Guys, if you're watching the visual right now, make sure you like the video and hit subscribe down below for amazing New York Jets content. And, of course, you can always listen to the audio if you prefer. I know there's a lot of you guys out there. The audio version of this podcast has been available for a decade. So a lot of people like listening it into the car on their commute. So, obviously, if you're doing this, you can't like the video or subscribe. But I would really appreciate it that even if you're watching now live, if you're watching the restream later, because the video is uploaded after the fact, make sure you like the video and hit subscribe. It makes a tremendous difference and shows me what you guys care about. and shows me what you like. Also, feel free to do this if you have the means to do so. You can do a YouTube super chat. Throw a tip into the jar. Your comment will 100% get answered. And you support the show, which is always great as well. So feel free to do that if you so please. Let's keep going here on the comments. VR Hell Doggo, awesome. Luck for that helmet. Great stuff. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I've been a lucky bastard my entire life. I have won so many different things. I'm trying to like look around because I'm not quite in my man cave. I'm in kind of the office area. But I'm trying to look behind me. Is there anything else I'm missing? No. So the helmet is there, but I'm going to be honest. I've won like a million things of like contests and things. So I'm a lucky guy. I got like I think my dad told me once I have a 4-leaf clover shoved up my ass. So there you have it. Maximilian, are you having any reservations about Saleh or Zach Wilson? Reservations? No. For me, Robert Saleh, I like a lot. I really like the cut of his jib. I think he's a great motivator. I'm really inspired by him. Again, this is a results-oriented business. And at the end of the day, that's going to have to be the straw that stirs the drink because eventually, no matter how much I like you, you're going to have to win football games. And does that happen this year, next year? I don't know. But my line is, hey, I want some wins, man. I'm not signing up for another 4-win season and, gee willikers, 2023 looks like a good year. No, I'm sick of pushing it forward. Like right now, I want wins, and I think it is within the realm of possibility. In terms of Zach Wilson stuff, no. I'm very high on Zach Wilson, and one preseason game of throwing an interception on a guy that he predetermined he was going to throw to before the snap and some of that stuff, against a preseason. If he like starts lighting it up, that does it, like for instance, last year, Jets-Packers preseason game. Do we remember that one? Zach Wilson was lighting it up. He threw it back to Corey Davis, and he went all over the place. And what did that do? That didn't amount to diddly crap. So, you can have good and it doesn't do anything. You can have bad and it doesn't mean anything. So let's just see when he returns. Again, my projection is he won't be ready for week 1. I think that's going to be Joe Klecko. I think I could see him back for week 2 against Cleveland. But if they really want to just milk this thing and make sure he's right, and again, they would know that, not me. Week 3, the home game against Cincinnati would not be a bad place to bring him back either. So no matter what, again, I have no reservations at this point about either guy. And at the end of the year, you can ask me this question, Maximilian, and I'll give you an answer. But right now, I do not. VR Held Dog Go. Clemens looked great in his first preseason game, going out on a limb to say he will be special. I said it a couple of months ago, not that I'm trying to pat myself on the back here, but I initially kind of raised my eyebrow when Clemens was selected. I kind of went, not sure about this one. And then like immediately after, I've said this a few times, immediately after I heard him in the interview with the media, and then I reached out to a couple Texas A&M people and just went, you know what? Maybe I was wrong initially. Maybe I was wrong. And then obviously he's looked like a monster in camp. And then in the preseason game, he went off. Jeff Ulbrich spoke of him very highly this week. And I think he's just a dude. He is a man. He is a guy that, sometimes you draft a guy and you're like, man, maybe he'll develop in a few years. He's 25. There's no time to waste to develop. He's already a fully grown man right now. So I think he's going to be a stud. He can rush from the inside. He can rush from the outside. That versatility will get him on the field early. He's going to be a part of this rotation. I think he's going to be a dude to watch out for. So VR, I think he will be special. LT, it's about damn time. That's the LeBron James line. It's about damn time. It's about damn time. It was criminal that Klecko hasn't been in this entire time. And LT, I am so happy that this isn't one of those stories where me and you are hanging out in the bar in 20 years and going, man, that Klecko guy, he should have been in. And you're like, LT goes, yeah, I know, man. And I'm like, yeah, he should have been in. I don't know what happened. He should have been in. As fun as that conversation would be with you, LT, I'm just glad that he's finally getting in. So we don't have to complain about it anymore. It's clearly long overdue. Long overdue. His last year, Joe Klecko in the NFL was 1988. It's 2022, man, 34 years ago. I mean, again, there is absolutely no excuse. He should have been in a long-ass time ago. I'm just happy that he's finally getting in, and, again, deservedly so. Keep it simple, RC. Wow, that's a take. I could see Clemens being the second coming of Klecko. That would be phenomenal if he could be that guy. He does seem like a quiet guy in the same sense, very intimidating. But hey, if we could get half of that, I'd be happy. Please make that happen. Force of Phil. Still can't believe Klecko's going to the Hall. Blown away that we likely will have him and Revis in the Hall together at the same time. It's going to be a magical year. I don't want to look too far ahead, but I got to tell you that I can't believe it either. I was pinching myself because I'm expecting the news to drop at 1. Mike Kliss, who covers the Denver Broncos out there, leaks the news at 11, says Klecko's in. And it's hard to, like, Mike is a really good reporter, and I know a lot of Broncos people out there. So, again, like he's a respected reporter. So I believed it, but it was still almost like, man, is he really in? Is he really in? And then I was hovering over the Hall of Fame Twitter, and they had a pre-scheduled tweet ready to drop at 1, and it said, boom, Klecko's in. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So he is in, and it would be amazing to see Revis. Revis deserves it. The nickname, the recent, again, first ballot chance, all of that is in his favor. And he's going to be a popular guy in the committee, I think. So, yeah. And then again, I've never been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I've always wanted to go, but the opportunity never presented itself. And now that I'm a man and I'm an adult and I'm going to be 30 next April, like, we're going to the Hall, baby. I got to make my financial decision. So we're going, baby. So I can't wait to make that official. VR Hildago. Possibly, I was kind of psyched that they were moving him around DT and DN. Yeah, that's the versatility of his game for sure. We need a tour of the man cave, Boy Green. We 100% do. This camera, unfortunately, is attached to this workstation here, the laptop, but you are going to need it. I will tell you a couple of things. First off, and I will do this at some point, either for YouTube or something, like things I could see right now from this room. I got to give a major shout out to Captain Jet. He made a personal, take flight jet helmet that can attach to my head. It's heavy as hell, but it's got the Boy Green stuff. It must have been from the 2015 range because Eric Decker, like he painted all the names on it. So Eric Decker, Brandon Marshall, a bunch of those I could see are on there. Let me think what else is in that room. I've got autographed Jets training camp footballs from Going when they were there at SUNY Cortland, which was really cool. I'm trying to think what else is in there. And then just a bunch of Jet stuff. I got Darrelle Revis fat head. I've got Jet logo fat heads. I've got old school Jet logos. And some of the stuff that's not even in there, it's also in my other office. Nursery now. Hey, dads out there, you know what I'm talking about. You think you have something, then you don't. So I had an office, which was in a room. Now I'm like in my dining room with this office. But that's neither here nor there. Anything for your children. Am I right or am I right? But I have a autographed Santonio Holmes jersey. I met Santonio at Jets training camp. I met him several times, actually. But the story that I always remember is I was walking around Jets training camp. And, I was fortunate enough to go to a couple of Jets training camps. Like in a single calendar year, my dad would bring me. And I would have to pick what jersey to wear. Now, in a perfect world, for those who don't know, if you've never been to a Jets training camp, the players that may or may not be available to you to sign autographs are random as far as I know. Like, I don't think it's a schedule. Like, okay, Zach Wilson, you're tomorrow, you're this, you're this. It's somewhat random. So whatever jersey I randomly picked off my hanger and went, I'll wear this one today. Like the randomization of me picking the right jersey to that player potentially being available to me. What are the chances of that? So I grabbed this Antonio Holmes jersey and we do the autograph session, right? So after practice, they send a bunch of players over at SUNY Cortland and they're doing autographs, right? So I think I get my fill, right? I normally buy a Jets hat and let all of the players that I meet sign the one hat. And then as I'm walking back with my dad to the car to leave, I look up. So it's me, it's gate or like a barricade to separate us from the players and then players, right? So I'm like, I'm like walking towards the car with my dad. And then all of a sudden I look up and San Antonio Holmes is like right there. So it's me by myself. All the Jet fans must be somewhere else on the old, plantation. They're somewhere else, but it's me, barricade San Antonio Holmes. And I couldn't say it fast enough. I'm like, San Antonio? And he looks up, yo, what's up, man? And then I'm like, oh my God. And I like strip off my jersey off my back. And I'm like, oh my God, can I get an autograph, man? He spoke to me for 5 minutes. And now I know a lot of people have conflicting emotions about San Antonio Holmes because, He gets injured in that 49ers game and flips the ball, and it's a fumble, and I think they returned it to the house. And, the way it ended in Miami where he gets kicked out of the huddle, like there's a lot of reasons why I get a lot of Jet fans don't like Santonio Holmes. But for me, I'll always remember Tone Time being the closer, the 2010-2011 AFC Championship game. It was specifically 2011, but the 2010 season, and he catches the knee touchdown in the back left corner of the end zone. Like, I'm going to remember all that. And Santonio went out of his way, he autographs my jersey off my back, and then he spends 5 minutes just talking with me. And I'm just like talking about anything. And I will have that memory forever. For Santonio, he probably does not remember it all. And he spent, 5 minutes of his life, which made my life. But to him, it was nothing. But to me, it was everything. So I got to tell you, that's another one of my in the house. I've been very fortunate. I'm very lucky. There's some Jet fans who never get to see the Jets, never get to, enjoy that or do any of that. So I am a very lucky ass Jets fan that I've had some of these experiences that I've had. But that's another one. That's up there. Tone Time. But yes, we will do a tour. Eventually, I'll just grab the camera and I'll be like, "Hey, this is Boy Green. Let's go!" And I'll bring it on this back hallway that I normally cover, just in case people are walking by. I have hats from pillar to post, from ceiling to floor. I just got these little like glue hook things that go into the wall, and I got a million Jet hats. I'm a Jet hat guy. So I've got, when I was a youngin', I like the fitted flat build hat, or not the fitted, but the flat build hats. I thought they were cool. I'm like, oh, look at me. And then as I got old, I'm like, that's not cool anymore. I just want comfortability. So I normally have these kind of hats or snapbacks. I'm a snapback guy too. Those are the two hats that I have though, mostly. But I've got Jets draft hats, Jets training camp hats, and I try to mix it up here on the show so you guys can kind of see my full collection. But we will eventually show the hat wall and then the man cave and everything else. So request accepted, Maximilian. We will be doing that in the future. Melvin, that helmet's awesome. It is so freaking awesome, man. It is amazing. And I still can't believe that's awesome. Keep it simple. Hey, Boy Green, what are your lotto numbers today? That's a good question. My lucky number is 25. So if you see me on any social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's Boy Green 25, and the 25 is a shout out to my high school football days. That was my jersey number. I was a Reggie Bush guy. I was a Reggie Bush guy. So for my dad retired from the Navy in 2008, and he retired for a day, and then he went into a different career field in nuclear power. But I was in South Carolina for a long time I can't even remember the first year, but I didn't move away from South Carolina until 2008. So I was a freshman in high school. And I went to Stratford High School in Somerville, South Carolina. And that first year, I wanted to be on the football team. But down south, I mean, there are a lot of hard roster cuts and everything. And man, it's tough to make football teams down south. And I come up here to New York, and they don't have any roster cuts. They're like, hey, any player that is on the team is great news for us. So as a sophomore, I get the number 24. That was a shout out to Marion Barbarian. Rest in peace. My dad was a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan for a long time. So my initial number was 24 as a member of JV my sophomore year. And that was the only number I had as an option. So 24, and I wanted it for Marion Barber. And then I went to varsity the next year for the next 2 years. And when I went into the coach's office, he said, you have two number choices, pal, 25 or 80. And I wanted to be a running back. So I said, obviously 25. And then Reggie Bush and everything else. But so the 25, for all those who are curious, is from my jersey number in high school. It's a former football player. There you go. Melvin, you're lucky. Let's wish the Jets to playoffs this year. I think it's happening. I think they're going to go 9-8. I think they're going to make it. So fingers crossed, baby. Fingers crossed. I think it happens. It's been too damn long. Again, I just talked about it with the good news, right? That we're even doing this video right now for the Jet Zone, that we have the Zach Wilson surgery news, which again was a flip of the coin. Like if he turns the other way, he blows out his ACL, is out for the year. But the Jets got the right turn of luck there. One, Joe Klecko making it. Again, boom, he's in. So you have two bits of good news in the same week. I don't know, man. I think we're due. That's how I said it for some of these other things that are happening. Obviously, Joe Klecko was freaking due for a long time. And the Zach Wilson thing would just do with all the bad injury luck we've got. And you know what? It's been 11 goddamn years since they've been in gosh darn playoffs. So you know what? I think we're due, baby. That's how I look at it. Melvin, thoughts on Garrett Wilson comments on the difference on Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco throwing. I think this rubbed some people the wrong way, Melvin, where the question was asked by our good buddy Antoine Staley, which, by the way, I'll be with Antoine Staley for week 1. We're going to be doing a tailgate special in the parking lot from 9 to 12, the Middle Initial Podcast. So Twitter, search the Middle Initial Podcast and get your tickets, baby. I'll be there with Antoine Staley, who's the new New York Daily News Jets reporter who asked that question at the press earlier this week. So to Melvin's point, Antoine Staley asked him, hey, what's the difference from catching passes from Joe Flacco to Zach Wilson? Now, I don't think he meant it. He, being Antoine Staley, asked the question to get like a sexy quote of like, this is why Joe Flacco is way better than Zach Wilson. But I thought it was a great comment, to be honest with you. It was a great answer from Garrett Wilson because it's real and it's truthful. Like, Zach Wilson, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, he's a young guy. Every football, he throws 1,000,000 miles an hour. He just fires everything in there. For Joe Flacco, this guy's a veteran, man. This guy has been around the block, a former Super Bowl champion. This guy has different changeups on his pitches. So, like, for a slant, you wouldn't throw it the same way that you would throw a fade, or that you wouldn't throw a go route, or you wouldn't throw a curl, or you wouldn't throw a smoke route, or what have you. So Joe Flacco has the veteran wherewithal that he kind of, it's kind of like throws a spitball, throws a curve, throws a slider. Like, depending on the situation, Joe Flacco changes the throw. So first off, Joe Flacco being able to do that, I think, is a tip of the cap to him. He's a longtime veteran. And Garrett Wilson, what a truthful comment, and that's good. And hopefully Zach Wilson can learn something from old veteran Joe to try to figure it out. Because, again, you need to kind of change up the ball based on the situation. So often, and I've seen it from a few quarterbacks in the league, where they'll just, like, you'll see it, right? Like, where a receiver will drop the ball on a quick slant, and Zach Wilson or something freaking fires it in there 1,000,000 miles an hour, just unleashes the ball, and it smacks the receiver's hand, and he drops it. But sometimes you need a little soft throw. Just throw it like, hey, man, I'm going to throw it a little bit ahead of me. I'm going to grab that ball, and I'm going to book it to the house. So throw it a little ahead of me, give me a little softy, and I'll be able to reach out, grab it, secure it, bring it in, and then make some things happen after the catch. I thought it was a great comment, to be honest with you. I know some people overreacted to it going, yep, see, Joe Flacco elite, Zach Wilson sucks, but that's not how I saw it. Melvin, our D-line is going to eat all year. I can't wait, man. So I'm excited about Michael Clemens. Jacob Martin is another one that I think no one's talking about, but I think he's going to be a guy talking about almost change-up, but change-up on the defensive line where you got guys who could do different things. He's got that elite get-off. Look at some of those advanced metric PFF numbers, and boy, he gets off the ball so quick. Jacob Martin, I like a lot. Michael Clemens is a gosh darn freak. And Carl Lawson, did you guys see the One Jets drive yesterday? The little montage of Carl Lawson bursting off the line of scrimmage? Now, none of us are going to know if this is OG Carl Lawson from last year until, well, we see it in the regular season, which, by the way, we didn't even see last year because it was hurt during joint practices. So we won't know. And I love that the coaches are saying this, like, they ask him, hey, is Carl Lawson back? Well, I don't know, says Robert Saleh. I don't know. Shrug shoulders, says Jeff Ulbrich, the defense coordinator. He's like, hey, we're going to have to see in the games. But Carl Lawson looks like he's good. Like he's freaking raring to go, man. And I'm all about it. So we got so many different guys that do different things. Quinnen Williams, JFM. I'm going to miss guys. Jermaine Johnson, Jacob Martin, Michael Clemens. Like, dude, we got a lot of guys. There's one guy I love that's not going to make the team. It's Bradley Anae. Maybe he's on the 16-man practice squad. He's a freak too. I love him, but he probably can't fit on the roster, I would imagine. So, oh yeah, it's special, man. VR Hell Doggo. Flacco was lights out yesterday in practice with first team. Hell yeah, and I'm looking forward to the preseason game. We're getting Monday Night Football coming up for preseason week number 2, which is a dress rehearsal for the season. I'm looking forward to this Falcons roster, which I'm going to be blunt. This Falcons team is perhaps one of the worst rosters in the NFL. I hope the Jets give them the business. Like, they bend them over the barrel and show them the 50 states, if you know what I'm saying. I want some mustard on that sandwich. I want them, specifically in the trench warfare, to show some Brutus beefcake. I want to see some out-muscling happening here. So, yeah, I love seeing Joe Flacco have one of the best days. Yes. That would be phenomenal. Alvarado. Wait, what? Klecko made it. Yes, he did. The announcement became official for the Pro Football Hall of Fame at 1:00 today, and it was leaked at around 11:30-ish, so about an hour and a half early. It was leaked that Joe Klecko is going to be in. So that is great news from that perspective. Dave Etchelberg, the Jets retired 73 already. We know what he was. I'm glad he's finally getting his place in history. He's Jet royalty. Hail to King Joe, the best representation of all Jet fan bases ever. Yes, he has his place on the Iron Throne, as he deserves. Yes, the picture I shared of the article, it's also in the description. If you guys want to read more about the story, if you missed it, feel free to read the column, and it kind of explains the whole thing I talked about earlier about why is it a mere formality that he's actually going to be in, and everything else. And VR Heldaga, Jets need to retire 7, 3, and 37 for Joe Klecko. Hey, I'm all go overboard, baby. That would be great. That would be awesome. Maximilian, this is a great question. In your opinion, does Mark Astana belong in the Hall of Fame? What a great question, Maximilian. Does he belong in the Hall of Fame? I think he's a Hall of Famer, but here's the thing. He's, unlike Joe Klecko, the guy we've been pounding the table for, Mark Astana is never getting into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. To me, and you could argue whether or not you agree, but so my guy T.O., I'm a big T.O. fan, and that guy rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I think he's the second greatest receiver of all time, only behind Jerry Rice. T.O. was a dick off the field. He rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, particularly the media, who is responsible for selecting the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And the media went, oh, okay, T.O., you're going to be a jerk to us. Well, guess what? We're going to be a jerk to you. We're going to force you. And I believe he ultimately had to wait till his third whack at the piñata to be a Hall of Famer. Now, some people would say Hall of Famers are Hall of Famers. To me, first ballot means something special. That is the elite of the elite among the Hall of Famers. Like Revis getting in first ballot is the ultimate sign of respect. So that means a lot to me. Mark Astana was a jerk, and that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way back in the day. Now, I could speak to it because, I've seen documentaries, I've read stories. Older Jet fans will be able to speak more to this in a proper light. But from everything I've gathered, Mark Astana was a jerk. Now, I love Mark Astana. He was a colorful personality, and teammates. And I would say normally teammates would love that kind of guy. But to be honest, from stories I've heard, the Jets teammates hated Mark Astana. They thought he was a jerk and a me guy. And like Joe Klecko, you could understand is the complete opposite. This selfless guy that anything for the team, not only as an individual, but also for the New York Sack Exchange, greatest faction in NFL history. He was the opposite. So to get a guy that was all me, you could understand how that could rub a lot of people the wrong way. Long story short, Maximilian, I think he is Hall of Fame worthy. Look at the stats. So what are you at? 107.5 sacks, something like that off the top of my head, somewhere in that ball range. So statistically speaking, yes, part of the New York Sack Exchange the same way Joe Klecko was. But I think all the other stuff is why he's never going to get in. And also because he didn't command the same respect in that way from his teammates, he didn't have many advocates that were pounding the table for Hall of Fame in the same way they were for Joe Klecko for so many years, which I think ultimately helped him get in. Dave from New Brunswick, Jets family. What's popping, baby? Melvin, my Jets man cave is legit. Any way to share pics? I don't think in here there is, but definitely tweet at me. I want to see them. So you can tweet at me at boygreen25, Melvin. I love seeing other people's man caves. So feel free to send that my way or any other social media portal, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of those. Let me know. Send them to me and I can reshare them with all our fans here. LT, hopefully Nick Mangold gets in the Hall of Fame one day. Again, for the kind of credentials for the Hall of Fame, being one of the best at your position, obviously Nick Mangold was that. He was a 7-time Pro Bowler, if memory serves correctly. I think it's going to take him the same like Kevin Mawai. It took him a long time to get into the Hall of Fame. I can't remember what year of eligibility he finally got in. I think Nick Mangold will have to go through that same treatment, unfortunately. But yeah, I think Nick Mangold's a Hall of Famer. Let's keep going here. Vier Hildago, number 25 was my number. Pop Warner in high school football. I love it. Excellent. I'm glad we could share. Hawk, good afternoon, gentlemen. Hope you're feeling all right, Paul. Yeah, so I am fully hydrated today, watering up, which is good. So I've been hydrating up, and again, I go on coughing fits after I hop off. So, but we're getting a lot better, though. We're getting a lot better. That's for sure. I should be back at the radio station next week. I got a virtual show scheduled for Friday, so fingers crossed, baby. VR Helldago, did you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Klecko will be the first true NFL draft pick the Jets picked to the Hall? That can't be right. I'll pull it up for the Hall of Fame because I was just looking at this the other day. Because the Jets obviously have a lot of guys who are in, but only had cups of coffee. Like, obviously, but the guy like Jason Taylor, LaDainian Tomlinson, guys like that. But so let me pull up our Hall of Famers here. So like Steve Atwater was another cup of coffee guy, Alan Faneca, Brett Favre, all these other ones. So yeah, let me read your question again. So excuse me, let me see. So Klecko will be the first true draft pick the Jets picked at all. I hope that's not true. They have a lot of Hall of Famers. I really hope that's not true. That'd be pathetic. Like, how many OG guys are there? But I'll pull up the Jets Hall of Famers here. Let me go. Team greats. Has a Ring of Honor list here, which has all these guys on it. I'm gonna have to pull this up in a better way. We'll see if I can. Hall of Famers. Okay, let's see. Find Hall of Famers. Let me see if I can do this on the fly. Let's go by a team. Okay, let me see if I can do this for you guys. We're doing this live here on the show. So the Jets have 18 Hall of Famers all time, according to the Pro Football Hall of Fame website. All right, let's go. So we got Steve Atwater, who, again, was a cup of coffee. Alan Faneca, a cup of coffee. Weeb Eubank, coach. I think Winston Hill is one right there who was a member of the 2020 class. Let me pull it up. I'm pretty sure Winston Hill was a Jets draft pick. So, yep, he was 11th round, 145th overall. So Winston Hill is a Jets draft pick. Let's keep it going here. Ronnie Lott, again, another cup of coffee guy. It's funny, some of the guys that you're like, wait a second, he was on the Jets. Yes, yeah, Kevin Mawai, or excuse me, Ronnie Lott was a Hall of Famer for the Jets. John Riggins is another one. He was a guy that I believe. Let me double check that. He had a lot of success, obviously, with Washington, but I'm pretty sure John Riggins was a original Jets draft pick. Let me confirm. Yes, he was. He was the 6th overall pick. There you go, 1971. So another Jets draft pick. Unless you're just talking about pillar to post, which, by the way, Joe Klecko was not. He spent his last year, I think, with the Colts. So that's another guy. Art Monk was another cup of coffee guy. Joe Namath, there you go. Obviously, he's a Hall of Famer that they drafted. So there's a bunch of guys, actually, that were there. So there's let me ring through a couple here again. You had Winston Hill. You had let's see, Don Maynard, I believe. Joe Namath. So yeah, you had a couple that were Jets. So no, Joe Klecko not the first on the pick sheet. RKO 316632. What's up, Boy Green? Joining late. What I missed? Sum up in 30 seconds. Go. Joe Klecko, Hall of Famer. It'll become official in January. That's it. Boom. Okay. Yeah, he is a nomination from the senior committee in the Hall of Fame. Unofficially, will officially be in January. Called a formality. He'll need 80% of the votes of the 49-member committee. Boom. So there you go. Hopefully that was the short version. Hawk, yes, Revis is not in officially, but Joe Klecko is going to be a member of the 2023 class. If Revis is in, he will be first ballot. He will also be in the 2023 class. John Stock, Joe Klecko is officially one of 3 senior finalists. He's not in yet officially. Yes, John Stack, excuse me. I have explained that throughout the show. And like I said, there's an article that's linked below to explain that even further. It is not official yet. However, it has been described to me as a formality that Joe Klecko will be a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So again, take that for what you will. So it is not official, but it is, if that makes sense. Robert S. on YouTube. I saw Joe Klecko. The guy was unstoppable. Remember seeing him. He was unstoppable guy, and he had one good leg that day. It was unbelievable. Yeah, when I was watching a little special, again, I highly recommend you guys, if you get 10 minutes today, look up, like, Joe Klecko deserves the call from the Hall. And it's a 10-minute video, and it's great. There's a lot of interviews. And Joe Klecko talked about how he had to, like, you know, in that 1981 season, he ended up having 20 and a half sacks. He had to, like, shoot up because he was injured. And I think it was his foot that was hurt, that he had to, like, suck it up just to play. But he said, my teammates needed me, and I had no choice. So that's really cool. VR Heldago, even if they both get in together, it'd still make Klecko first because he was drafted first, technically speaking. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, you mean like him and Revis, maybe? That I don't know. But yes, they do have a lot of Hall of Famers in. John Stack. Mark Astana is still the sack leader. Favre took a dive. Shouldn't count. That's true. Mark Astana, for those who also forget, Mark Astana, holder of the single season sack record, or was before Brett Favre took the dive, and thus Michael Strahan has it. He now has it in a tie with TJ Watt, who got that last year. And Klecko needs 80% of the committee approval. That is a guarantee to happen. Yes, that is true. VR, yes, Namath was an AFL draft pick. If you just mean purely NFL in the sense of the merger, then still you'll have, well, I guess Winston Hill may fall in that same category. So pure NFL draft pick, maybe if that's what you're getting at, then yes. Let's see. Dave Etchberg, the only thing that was tougher to see than Klecko in a Colts uniform was his son in a Patriots uniform. Puck the Patriots. You bet your cheeks. Yeah, Revis in a New England Patriots uniform. Yeah, there was unfortunately a few Jets that Revis was a bad one. I hated, and he won a Super Bowl, of course, with the Patriots too, but gross. Robert S. again on YouTube. Gastineau rubbed people the wrong way because of his celebration antics, which in those days were looked down upon. It's just normal now. That is true. That's another part of it, was the celebrations in Dark Soldier. Crew! Yes, sir. Welcome to the program. How are we? Let's see. VR Heldaga. Maynard was a giant. Yes. How did I forget that? Yeah. So I guess you're right on that. Let's keep going. RKO. Am I the only one that wants to hire Pennington or Sanchez as a quarterback coach for Zach? Sanchez is the most underappreciated quarterback in Jets history, 2 AFC championship games. Yeah, he has a shorter career than you'd think with the Jets. But no, I mean, I'm not sure if Sanchez would be a good coach. Chad Pennington for sure. Sanchez definitely is completely, like, destroyed and overlooked. And I don't get it, man. Like, again, the 2 AFC championship games, all the road playoff victories, I'm going to always remember Sanchez in a good light. Again, there's always a butt fumble, but I will always remember the good one. Let's see. There you go. John Hepburn, next year road trip to the Hall of Fame game. Let's all meet up. It'll be awesome, especially coming off our Cinderella Super Bowl win. Yeah, that's I like the cut of your jib. That's for sure. That would be amazing. So anyone who wants to do that, again, I am making that happen. I should probably, I'm sure the prices won't change, but I should probably lock that ticket in ASAP. Wow, what about that from Dark Soldier? Klecko deserves the call from the Hall because he can ball and he would not fall nor stall. You can get his autograph at the mall. Yeah, hopefully it's a little harder now to get that autograph for a Hall of Famer, but neither here nor there. Let's see. Pennington would be an amazing coach. Force of Phil. Yeah, he likes coaching his children, although his son is now going to Marshall, continuing, all the good vibes. So I think he likes hanging out with his kids and doing that. So I don't know when he ever does it. I know he has this relationship with the Jets organization, so he's done some work with the Jets in film study. But we'll see if that ever is to a coach. Well, guys, again, great news on the Hall of Fame. Joe Klecko is going to be in there. It is inevitable. And hopefully Darrelle Revis joins him, which means the Jets Hall of Fame game and all that would be fantastic. Well, I have to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in for another episode of the Jet Zone, a weekly New York Jets podcast. Make sure you stay tuned right here. Again, we got Monday Night Football coming up against the Atlanta Falcons, the second preseason game. We had another video earlier this week on the great Zach Wilson health news, and we'll have some guests that'll be joining us coming up here shortly on the YouTube channel. So make sure you like the video, hit subscribe down below for more amazing New York Jets content, and we'll be back before you know it right here on the channel. Thanks, everybody, for another episode. We'll check you next time. Peace out.